Hi, I'm Dr. Debbie Robbe, and this is a conversation I call Team Meeting. I'm a former college professor, and this is one of my favorite, bravest students I know, Micheal MCcree. But we wanted to have a conversation about what it's like to be a student athlete and now a former student athlete. And from sitting on the other side of the desk, what I realize is the power of this community of former student athletes. You are amazing people with gifts and talents that you may not understand. And I believe this country needs you to step up and be leaders because you are more valuable because of sports beyond sports. So we're going to have a team meeting, and today it's my favorite and bravest student, Micheal MCcree. Welcome, Micheal.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So full disclosure, Micheal was in my class, or I can't remember how many. Did you just take one? I
I
can't
think I
remember.
might have taken two of your classes. I tried to
Okay.
get as many as I could. So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. But so Micheal was a baseball player, but I got to know him because I went to some of the games. And full disclosure, I'm really not a baseball fan, but I love these student athletes and I love these men. And so we're going to talk about all of the miraculous things he's done and how he's really moving and doing some great things. I am very fond of the student athletes that do not that understand their gifts and talents and did not play pro sports, because your value is beyond pro sports. So, all right, Micheal. So give us where you went to school, how you got in, your major, all that kind of stuff.
So I grew up in Gwinnett County, so Metro Atlanta, right outside of the city. And I played basketball and baseball in high school. But once I got to junior year, I decided I needed to make a decision on what I was going to do so I can kind of focus on what my next move would be. So trying to get a scholarship, just weighing the pros and the cons, I saw that I was doing a lot better at baseball, and I felt like my future was going to go a lot further with that sport. And so junior year, I decided to stop basketball, and I really just focused in on baseball. And I had a really good senior year, and Coach Hurst came to watch me play.
Coach Hurst.
Yeah. Coach Hurst came to watch me play at Berkmar High School, and he offered me a scholarship. Well, first it was Frady. Frady came to see me play.
Oh, okay.
And then I guess he went and talked to Coach Hurst, and then Coach Hurst wanted to come out and see me for himself. And then right after that, after the game, he came and talked to me and said, "I want you to play for me." And he wanted to answer on the spot, but I didn't know anything about Georgia State. I said, I'll think about it. I knew
Yeah.
Georgia State was downtown. I knew it was Division I. So all of that looked good, but I needed to go and take a visit and do all that stuff. And so I went, took a visit, had lunch with my mom, Coach Frady, Coach Hurst. We ate at 6 Feet Under over in,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Said some
So,
good.
and yeah, so I'll always remember that visit. And then the rest was history. I accepted the offer, and then I came downtown. And so that's where it started.
What was your major?
So initially I picked business,
Mm-hmm.
and after taking accounting, I decided to switch. Yeah, that's yeah. After accounting, I got through accounting, and they told me I was gonna have to take a higher level accounting to keep going. And that's when I decided, you know what? Let me switch to economics. I wanted something that, economics is pretty tough, a major
Yes.
too,
Yes.
especially as a student athlete, given how busy we are and stuff like that. But I did want a respectable degree once I finished. And then
Right.
I minored in sociology.
Okay.
And
All
so
right.
because I was intrigued with sociology and psychology and all that stuff like
How
that.
people
So
think and
yeah, how people think and all those kind of things, and I still am. But so majored in econ, minored in sociology.
okay.
Hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, how was your baseball career? I mean, what did you like about it? I mean, what was some of the goals of it, or seasons, or did you have a great team, or, something?
Yeah. So freshman year, I had a pretty good season, for freshman year. The interesting thing about college athletics is most of the people on your team they were the best player on their high school team.
Right.
So I went from being, I was MVP and all state and all county and stuff like that in high school. And then when I showed up on campus freshman year, now I have to kind of work my way back up from the bottom. So now you're competing against juniors and seniors who've already had years of college experience. And so now you're trying to prove yourself against, everybody on the team was the best player in their high school.
Right.
And so freshman year went well, hit a sophomore slump. Junior year went pretty good. And then senior year, we won conference.
Yes.
And that was the first time we had ever won conference in school history. And to this day, we still have the record for the most wins in a season. And so I know you remember that season. That was my favorite season, was senior year. That was a magical season for us that year.
Yep. So what was when you first started, what was the reason you started playing Little League?
Oh, okay. So I think I was 4 or 5 when I started playing. And my mom signed me up for this park in Montgomery, Alabama. It's called Seth Johnson. And it was T-ball. And I played for a team called the Washers Rookies. So,
great.
Yeah. So, I think that was the name of a company. But at that park, companies would sponsor teams and the teams would be named after the companies.
Okay.
So it was Washers Rookies. And that was fun. We still had pictures from those.
Oh, nice.
I was number 7. That was my first number. And I don't know why I had that number. Maybe they just ended up giving it to me. But that ended up being my number at Georgia State too. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Numbers are really important.
Yeah.
Except I could never remember anybody's number. Okay. So so let's talk about kind of your career, because you and I have talked about doing these kind of podcasts and this kind of thing. And so after you graduated, did you think you were going pro?
No. So there was a point, I think halfway through the senior year or the beginning, I was battling a lot of injuries. And so I had to get a cortisone shot in my shoulder just to make it through the regionals that we played at Georgia Tech, just to make it through the conference championship and everything. And I had a lot of issues with feet and ankles and back, stuff like that, just nagging injuries.
Yeah.
And so I knew, okay, when this season's over, this is done. Because we play 60 games a season in college. Yeah. And pros, we play at least 100. So I was like, you know what? Let me kind of make a pivot and decide what I want to do when this is over.
Right.
Which I hadn't decided at that point.
Right.
And as a student athlete, some students kind of can, think ahead and things like that. But when you have so much going on as a student athlete with trying to keep your position on the field, trying to make sure you can get the grades you need to get in order to stay on the field, it's just a lot going on. There's a lot of chaos around that time. So you're really not thinking ahead.
Right.
And it makes it a little harder to think ahead because you're just in the moment.
Right. Yeah. Because you have to kind of stay in the moment, don't you?
You
just
have
to deal with it all. Because then not only do you have study times, if you have any like academic help, then you have the team has you got to go do community service, and then and then you got to eat and sleep. You probably have friends. You may have a girlfriend or boyfriend. Where's your family? Even get a text message, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's rough. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a lot. And so especially for, those 4 years are very critical as an adult. I mean, you leave, you leave your home, but you're not fully an adult, you're kind of still somewhat of a kid. And so in that little time frame there, you're making those adjustments, and it's hard for a lot of people. As a matter of fact, there were 11 freshmen that came in with me. By the time I graduated, there were only 4 left.
Oh, really?
So either, guys had just dropped out, didn't keep their scholarship, or transferred because they couldn't get on the field or transfer because they were homesick. So you see a lot of that in
Wow.
and,
11 to 4.
yeah,
Yeah.
those
Okay.
those kind of things happen a lot. And so yeah, after I decided, okay, I'm not gonna attempt to do professional, I'm not gonna do any showcases or anything like that. I was talking to one of my teammates, Matt Van Horn.
Yes.
We were on the bus. I think we were coming from the conference championship, and we were talking about like, okay, what are you gonna do afterwards? What are you gonna do afterwards? And he's like, yeah, man. I talked to Dina Freeman Patton, who she's the AD at Liberty now. I saw she just got that job just recently.
Good.
And so she was our academic advisor. And he said, yeah, I talked to her and I'm going to do my master's afterwards. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll probably, maybe I'll do that too, because I don't know what I'm going to do next. So I might as well.
Right.
And so he said, yeah, you can get a job and they'll pay for it for you. And you can work in the study hall, or do whatever. So I'm like, okay, let me buy myself some time.
Right.
Because I didn't know what I was going to do. I'm like, okay, let me do something I'm familiar with
Right.
around people that I'm familiar with.
Yes.
And it was a good transition. And I can get a master's paid for in a field that I'm interested in, which was sports.
Right.
So it all made sense to me at that time. I said, okay, cool. But I always think things happen for a reason, because I've always been able to pivot to something else.
Right.
So once I, did my master's, that was great. It only took a year and a half, but I could work as a graduate assistant in the academic department. And that was something I can put on my resume, because most student athletes, you really don't have time to get anything added to your resume, because your sport is your job.
Right. Right.
Weights and practice and class, you really don't have time to get a job. Your resume is usually bare by the time you finish.
Yeah, and that was the thing that I started realizing as watching, is like these student athletes that were confident on campus, on the field, that sort of thing. The minute eligibility was over, they were in my office. And it was like, oh, come on, you can do this. I have great confidence in you. And so then I started working on, and there was a pattern that I was like, there's something's not right here. And so that's kind of how I got to this point. Is I saw so many student athletes come through my office before and after eligibility to help them, because I believe so much in them. Yeah. And I believed what you were learning on the field through sports was the greatest leadership tools. All you lacked was that little step of experience in a specific industry. But everything companies, the industry, the community is looking for in leaders, you have set goals, you've achieved goals, you've missed goals, you've done all this sort of thing. And now all of a sudden, nobody recognizes you, or the conversations get really small because the fans or your family want to talk about, remember this play, this game, conference championship. And now you're like, what am I going to say? Who am I going to? And so the conversations get small, and you've got all this time. And I think it was really wise that you recognized to be on campus as familiar with people that you're familiar with something, with an industry you're familiar with. That's right. Awesome.
Yeah. And I think a lot of student athletes don't realize the amount of transferable skills they can take from the sport that they're in and transfer it to something else. And I think that's a big thing with helping student athletes, is because, like you said, we're very confident in what we do on the field, because it's what we've been doing all of our lives.
Right.
What we've practiced so hard for is what we're passionate about. And so we're very confident about that. And then you put us into a different field, and it's like we're starting from square one now, and we really don't have the confidence in that. And so I think as long as we can make sure that athletes understand that, hey, here are the tools that you've kind of, sharpened as an athlete, that you can transfer to this particular area.
Right.
And I think that will give them a lot more confidence in getting out of sports or just transitioning within sports too.
Right. And you had a strength and conditioning coach, you had all these other coaches, and now you're kind of on your own. And, you know, some of the family used to going to games, especially in baseball, travel ball. You guys played all year round. And now all of a sudden the family's not going. So then everybody's now we have an identity shift, right? But that's kind of where I ended up coming in. So tell me what, I understand your coaching, and we want to talk about how this works. And Micheal was a GA and what he saw in the student athletes there. But tell us what you're doing now, your job and your coaching.
Okay, so I'm an academic advisor at Georgia State for the MBA program. When I started out here, I was working in undergrad, helping undergrad students with picking classes and things like that. That environment was a little different from the sports environment. You're in a coaching role,
Right.
but you're not in the realm of sports.
Right.
And so you have to adjust your approach to, you're sitting across the desk from an art student,
right,
or
right,
an English student.
Right. Right.
Normally, in the sports world, you can be a little more, I guess, harsh with athletes. Not harsh,
Yes.
but you own them a little different than you are with a student who comes
Correct.
in, right?
Correct.
The one thing I learned that helped me advising and coaching is that everybody that came through that door was different, and my approach had to be different, and I had to be adjustable to them.
Yeah.
I can't expect them to adjust to me.
Right.
If I wanted to get through to them, and if I wanted to help them, I had to adjust to them.
Right.
And like I said, every student was different. And that's why no day was the same.
Right.
What I liked about it, it wasn't monotonous. And,
Right.
That's what I learned from doing private lessons as well. Because when I was doing batting lessons is kind of really how I started with the coaching thing. I might have an 8-year-old come in, and then my next session was an 18-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
And so I had to take the information that I knew, and then I had to give it to an 8-year-old. But now, an hour later, I'm talking to an 18-year-old, and I have to speak to him differently.
Right.
And so that taught me a lot about education.
Right.
In general.
Right.
And to be honest with you, I really didn't want to be a coach.
Why?
When I was playing. And most athletes, and I'm learning this, is that most athletes don't really want to be coaches when they finish. A lot of times you get into it by accident.
And why don't you want to be a coach?
The thing is, I had no idea that I had a gift to educate people.
Yeah.
I didn't know, not while I was playing.
Right.
Because all of my focus was on what I was doing.
Right.
And I didn't have to teach anybody anything. So
Right.
The only reason why I really got into private training is because I had nothing else to do. It was something I was familiar with. I needed some extra money. Sure, let me do this until I figure out what I really want to do.
Exactly.
And then so what happened was, one of my first sessions, I'm in the batting cage, and there's this little kid, and I was very confident in my ability to do these things, but now this kid's looking at me like, hey, teach me. Now I'm like, okay, I have to teach this kid to do what I used to do.
Right.
And then at that moment, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of ill-equipped right now to be able to translate the information and then teach him how to do it. And so I had to learn how to coach.
Yeah.
At a sport that I thought I was super familiar with. So now I got to fill that gap in, and I got to learn the education piece of it.
Right.
I know the game of baseball, but I didn't know how to educate. So knowing the game and knowing how to educate, I felt that's what makes you a good coach.
I think so.
And so that's kind of how my journey started. And then after getting to know families, after getting to know players, the families, you get to know them, and then they start to ask you questions. They feel more comfortable asking you questions. That's when I decided, okay, I'm going to start a website and write articles to help parents to help their kids get better at baseball.
Right.
And these were smart people. These were doctors and lawyers and
Sure.
well-respected people. And they would ask me questions about, you know, the process of development for their baseball player. So I said, okay, why don't I just turn these articles into chapters and create a book? And that's when I made my first book. It's called Game Changer, The Baseball Parent's Ultimate Guide. I wrote that in 2014.
Okay.
And then from there, you know, I continued to write, and I wrote a second book on hitting. And then I took the book on hitting and I decided I will make a film on hitting to teach people that I couldn't see, that I couldn't reach, because I kind of got addicted to just educating people and helping them get better at things. And so I said, you know what? I don't just want to influence the people I see on a weekly basis, the kids I see. I want to create something to where my information can make it to someone in California, someone in Texas, someone in Canada, or wherever. So
do you have a copy of that book you can show us, or?
So this is the second book. This is called Mind of a Superior Hitter, the Art, Science, and Philosophy. So that's done pretty well. It's made it on the bestsellers list on Amazon before. So
awesome.
And I'm working on
that is so awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's rehearse so we can wrap up here. One is that you do know how to teach because you have been a part of this, right? Mm-hmm. And it's hard to adjust from student athletes outside, but you can do it because you know how to be a leader. It's just how you communicate. So just like I said, we're going to have Micheal back talk to us. We're going to discuss some things, but you, Micheal MCcree, are more valuable because of sports beyond sports. So we thank you all for being a part of the first team meeting YouTube and a Rumble, and you can find us on Instagram and all that kind of stuff. But have a great day. You're amazing people.